Hey guys, this is Stu from Stuart Scale Models, and this is my final reveal in Chance of North Wales World War One group build, which is my entry for this year. Principally, the reason I decided to go in for it was basically Leonard announced about a couple of years ago that they would be doing a World War One group build over the course of the next 4 years, obviously during the period of the First World War itself. I decided to come into it this year principally because I have a family connection to the Battle of the Somme. It was actually my late grandfather, Frederick Avery, who actually fought in the battle. I think he was also at Passchendaele, Ypres as well, and I think he was at Mons, I'm not sure. But he was in some of the major battles of the First World War, and obviously from July onwards we commemorated the beginning of the actual battle, and it didn't actually finish until November of 1916. So needless to say, it was within the course of the period of the battle I wanted to get this build done. And another reason was basically, obviously a lot of my grandfather's chums weren't fortunate enough to survive the war or come back home safely to their loved ones, and it's principally because of their sacrifice that I'm doing a tribute build to them as well. Because to be honest with you, a lot of emphasis has never been brought onto the First World War before the the centenary, which is a shame, because to be honest with you, the First World War was just as crucial as the Second. And if it hadn't been for those guys, by now we would all be living under the jackboot of the Kaiser. So it might, if it hadn't been Hitler. So that's food for thought, guys. So that was what drove me to get involved in this project. I was going to say, the set that I actually used initially was this set here, which is Master Box's hand-to-hand fight set of German and British infantry during the World War One era. It's a fantastic set. It's got a wealth of detail on the tunics. The sculpt of the faces is gorgeous. It comes with a sort of a trench set as well. But for this reason, I didn't use the trench set. All I was emphasising to use was the figures, because basically I saw a better sculpt from a company known as Fields of Glory, or FOG Models. They are principally based in Camberley here in England and Surrey, and they do numerous sort of plaster casts and accessories for dioramas. And I saw this one, and I've had it in my stash, I would say about a year and a half, and I thought, well, this would be a good excuse to use that as well, so why not put the two together? And then when I got part way through the build, I decided to add an extra figure. Now, the figure involved, if I can find the box, he says, I did have it here because this is take 2 of the video I've just done, was this one here, which is this set here. Sorry, you just got a snippet of what there was then. And I've used the officer on this box set from it as well, because to be honest with you guys, having the 4 figures on their own, I just don't know, it just felt like something was lacking. So I put an extra figure in with the officer, just to give it that little bit of more added action to the scenery. So yeah, there we go. The actual base itself, as I say, I got from Fields of Glory. So if you want to get hold of it, by all means get in contact with them. I think you can find them on the net on www.fieldsofglory.com or .co.uk. Alright, so check them out. Yeah, so basically that was that really. So I'm not going to keep you guys in suspense much longer. So here it is. This is my completed vignette for Chance of North Wales World War One group build. There you go. Doesn't she look a beauty? I'll just wait for it to pan round. As you can see here, the scene depicted is basically an incursion on the British trench by German forces. Principally it's supposed to be at night, but it is what it is. Very, very happy at the way it's come out. Hang on, let's get her a bit more central. There we go. and yeah, it looks fantastic. Like any sort of diorama or vignette, it's basically telling a story. So that's basically what I tried to bring across, and to give it that sort of effect that it's sort of very dark, muddy, cold, you know, that sort of thing. So really, it's the ultimate tribute to those boys I wanted to indicate, and I think I've actually sort of achieved it. Really, I'm very, very, very happy with it. The actual base, as I say, came from Fields of Glory. Most of the figures came from the Master Box set, bar the officer, which was from the Tamiya military World War One British Infantry set. Just to give that added detail. And yeah, it's one of the Tamiya's better set of figures, I have to say. I mean, the sculpt on them, the detail on the tunics is just superb. In fact, if I pan in a bit, you'll be able to see a bit better. There we are. You can see a bit better. Sorry, I knocked the camera in. So yeah, it's really come on well. I mean, getting the Master Box figures together themselves was fairly easy. I'll just pan up, see these two figures here. Went together like a dream. Again, a wealth of weapons and detail on them, as you can see. Sculpting on them is beautiful. They only needed bare minimum filler with Mr. Plastic Putty, I think they call it, Deluxe Plastic Putty. Very little of that, and included on the Tamiya figure as well. In fact, I didn't put any on the Tamiya figure. So that was that. Got them mounted on my old cocktail sticks, obviously. And then it was just a case of basically priming the actual base itself, which was used with Steiner's black. And one tip I will give you guys is don't try and do it on its own. I know some people are confident enough to do it, and I know Mark Cohen is, but to be honest with you, when I've actually used it first time without putting anything or anything, it blocked my airbrush up. And I did use a 0.5 needle, as was suggested by Steiner's themselves. So I thought the best thing to do was take a tip off of Phil Flory's site, and he suggests just adding a little bit of isopropyl alcohol just to thin it down, just a bare minimum, so it'll make it easier to flow through the airbrush. So that's what I did, and put it on 30 psi, which is something I would recommend you do, and it's beautiful stuff. It really goes on well, dries quickly, and it's got a nice surface texture to it. I cannot swear enough by it. Everybody's raved about it, and now I can see why. Because I used to use the old sort of car primers from a can, but no, from now on in I'm going to be using Steiner's, definitely. In fact, Gil recommended it, Paul recommended it more than enough times, and so did Mike. So yeah, I've jumped on the bandwagon as well. So there you go. Then it was just a case of putting down the base coats. I used Life Colours base coat for this bit here, where all the mud is, and also the colour in between the duckboards in the trench. Yeah, I did feel it was a little too light, and obviously I went over the wood, with wood panelling, and the duckboards with Humbrol's wood brown. Yes, I did use an enamel, and I brush painted that on. And then after that, I used basically Tamiya acrylics on the actual panelling, aluminium panelling, which was to prop the wall trench up. And then used Tamiya on the sandbags, that was dark yellow. In terms of the figures, again, I basically Steiner's them in black as well. And then it was a case of going over the uniforms with Tamiya colours. Now with the German infantry, I actually used a different paint set. I used Vallejo's German Feel Grey set, which is this set here. Paint number on that, if you want to get hold of it, is 70181, guys. Art 70181. They go on beautifully by brush. I've heard bad things about them in regard to airbrushing, so from now on in I'm just going to use them for hand painting figures, to be honest with you. And they do a wealth of sets. They really do. They do even do a flesh colour set. Now, admittedly, I did bottle out on that, guys, because I was going to use AK's flesh set on these, but what with the time constraints and everything, I thought, well, it's going to be far easier just to do them as I've done. Anyway, getting back to that, to be honest with you, with the detail painting on the figures, that nearly took me 2 weeks. In between the other build I'm doing, which is my own group builds, and it was only yesterday I actually finished doing it. But it was well worth it in the end. And then obviously what I did then was just basically dry brush all the creases etc on the uniforms, which you can see here is coming up quite effectively. And that was just using Tamiya buff. And then once that was done, it was a case of clear coating all the figures. I then went back to the base, clear coated that as well. Then basically put down a dark well, actually the wash of the earthworks I felt was far too light with the colour. It was far too light. It just didn't look right, to be honest with you guys. So what I did then, and if I can find it, I've got it packed away here. Where did I put my pigments and washes? Hang on. Just bear with me a minute, guys. I'm just going to dig them out. I'm a myriad of excise cream cartons because I use it to store stuff. Alright, let's have a little look. I think I used a MIG enamel wash. Yeah, this is the one. This is the one. This is Fresh Mud Effects. It's an enamel wash, and I used that on the earthworks along here and on the duck boards. And that looked far better, to be honest with you guys. It really gave it the right colour and the right texture. And to give it that sense of, you know, it's cold, wet and horrible sort of scenarios it was in the trenches. So I was very happy with that. And then obviously what I then did was clear coated it all. And then with the wood panelling, I did try basically doing some oh, hang on a minute, my battery's going. Bear with me a minute, guys. I'm just going to go and get the charger. I don't want to lose out on this video for you guys. So bear with me a minute. If the camera gets a little bit shaky, bear with me. As I was saying, hang on. Haha. Famous last words. Oops. Let me do a little bit of fiddling about here, guys, so bear with me. Ooh. There we go, that should do it. Right. And plug her in, bear with me. Okay. Right, we're well away again. Okay, as I was saying, guys, before I got rudely interrupted with the battery, then went in with the dark dirt wash, tried some pigments of rust. Yeah, that wasn't very successful because when I actually went to remove the wash, the pigment came off with it. So I thought, right, next best thing I was going to use, hang on, just pan it down a bit so you can see the rest of the diorama. It's gone a little bit out of shot. Let's pan back a little bit, guys. Hang on, bear with me. Making sure I haven't got to press the wrong button. There we go. Right, let's pan back a bit so you can see the full diorama. There we go. So what I then did was I decided to use AK's rust set, and I'm glad I did because you can see upon the texture here, once I blended it all in, it really gave that look of old rusted aluminium, and it really gives some sort of texture and depth to the dio. And then Again, I clear coated it, went over with another dark dirt wash just to make it look a bit darker and more aged, especially with the wood panelling and the duck boards, and it came up beautifully. So then it was a case of just basically matte coating it with Tester's Dull Coat, and then what I did with the mud on the top here and then the duck boards in between, just used a bit of clear to give it that sort of muddy glinty effect, as it were. And that was the base done, and then went back to the figures. As I say, clear coated them, and then put down one layer of dark dirt wash, which really brought the detail in the faces and on the tunics up like a shiny penny, give it that more sort of three-dimensional effect. And then the final process, as was the case this morning when I got up early, because I woke up and found out we'd had a power cut, but there you go. It was a case of just went outside, sprayed the dull coat on them, waited it for them to dry, and then just basically glued them to the base, and there you have it, one completed build. So yeah, as I say, the rust set I used was this set, which is AK's Rust Effect set, and that's AK551, guys, if you want to look that up. So there you go, superb. I've used them on a few builds just lately, and it really does have the effect if you don't have as much luck with pigments. So really that was it. The build was done, and now you see it in all its beauty. So really there you go. I don't think there's much more I can say about the subject, except to say that I'm very grateful for Len, Chancellor North Wales, for letting me take part. And Len, I hope you approve of what I've done. So I hope to, well, I'll wait to hear from you and all the other guys to see what feedback you give me. But to be honest with you, this is my first sort of vignette of figures on their own, and I'm really happy, and I'm actually hooked now. I might do a few more in my modelling career from now on, but what I may well do, I might put in another entry next year for World War One Groupbuild, but this time it's going to be aircraft. I've got a choice of one or two. I'll just move this out of the way. No, actually I won't move it out of the way. Which is, actually I will. I'll move the base out of the way a minute, guys. So I'll just pop that out of shot a moment. It's either going to be this kit here, which is Edward's weekend edition of the Albatross D30 Fag 153 in 1/48, because it's depicting the machine in winter 1917. Or, better still, is this one, which is Ravel's Bristol F2B fighter. So that could be possibly my build next year, because I know that actually entered service in 1917. Quite an effective fighter until the DR1 came in, and then it was outclassed by it, unfortunately. But it's a beautiful, graceful looking aircraft. I mean, I saw one at Hendon last year, so if you look back on my visit to Hendon, you'll see one in one of the, I think it was the grey and white hangar, and it's a beautiful looking machine. It's so graceful. I just love it. So it's either that one, or it's going to be, oh hang on, I couldn't get it in the shot, the D2. What was it? D3. So it's either that one or that one. Alright, so that's for next year, Lynn. Alright. So anyway, let's bring this back into shot. I'm going to finish up now. As I say, extremely happy with the way this has come out. I'm definitely going to be doing a few more dioramas like this. In fact, I've got a few sets for World War One as well. So I might be doing another one in 2018, possibly. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I've certainly enjoyed the process of this build. It's certainly been an adventure, and the more and more I'm getting into various projects, the more I'm sort of improving my skills, I think. But this is, I'm well happy with it. Anyway, I've waffled on enough for now. What is 24 minutes? So I'm going to leave you guys in peace. Catch up with all your vids, and the next video you'll see is going to be my monthly update, which will possibly be, because I'm waiting for some other sort of bits and bobs to come in, either next week or the week after. So it might be running a bit late, guys. So bear with me. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. Until the next time, get kit crazy, happy modelling, and I'll speak to you soon.